Section of buildings, sites, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and protection of buildings, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and interest through the preservation and enhancement of the local historic, architectural, archaeological, aesthetic heritage found in the city, through the maintenance of the distinctive character of the city's historic district, and through the promotion and enhancement of the city's historic and aesthetic attraction to tourists and visitors. I'd like to say good afternoon to our staff here today from the Land Use Division, our other commissioners, to our guests in the audience, and to our television audience today. I'd like to begin our meeting this afternoon by asking our other commissioners to introduce themselves, and we'll start from my right and the audience left.
Kamala DeBartoleben.
James Long.
Carol King.
And I am Richard Bailey, and I have the distinct honor of having the opportunity to serve as the chairperson of this Historic Preservation Commission. Since we do not have a quorum at this point, we will move our approval of minutes of the February 13, 2024 meeting to the bottom of the agenda, assuming that we will, by that time, have a quorum to proceed with. We have some interesting items on our agenda this afternoon, so we just want to get right into our deliberation this afternoon. We're going to ask Shaun Rose to present the next historic neighborhood spotlight on Old Cloverdale.
Hello and good evening everyone in the audience here as well. So the second of our 2024 historic neighborhood spotlights is Old Cloverdale, which despite its relatively late historic designation in 1996 has long been a popular area due to its wooded character, unusual yet cohesive design, and architectural diversity within the neighborhood. The boundaries of the neighborhood span from north to south from Felder Avenue to East Fairview Avenue, and then east to west between Norman Bridge Road and Narrow Lane Road, as we can see in the district map here. However, Old Cloverdale was once thought to be way out in the country south of Montgomery proper. The area was originally part of a 160-acre tract of land that William Graham purchased from the U.S. government in 1817. Through subsequent sales, the wooded landscape, which was then known as the Pines and Graham's Woods, came into the ownership of four men, J.C. O'Connell, M.B. Houghton, M.P. LeGrand Jr., and A.W. LeBron. At least two of those have street names named after them in the neighborhood. And these men, in 1887, incorporated the property as the Cloverdale Land and Development Company. The company name is likely a reference to the land's rolling terrain that created clover-covered dales or valleys that were used for outdoor recreation by early Montgomeryans. In 1892, the company developed a plat of the property showing a series of winding streets with large, irregularly shaped lots overlooking several open parks and a large lake site. This plan also included an extension of the electric trolley from Montgomery into Old Cloverdale. And Mike, if you could, that's the plat map would be one of those other documents that I gave you. So this is a photo of the original plat map of Old Cloverdale. And much of the neighborhood remains the same today as well. And there's an additional development further east that I'll discuss here momentarily as well. So Old Cloverdale's character is that of a late Victorian era streetcar suburb that utilizes Frederick Law Olmsted-esque landscape motifs. Olmsted was well renowned for projects that include New York City's Central Park, the main park ground for the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, as well as the state capitol grounds here in Montgomery. Olmsted was the 19th century forefather of landscape architecture, and he developed remarkable pastoral and picturesque design principles. Examples of these principles include subordinating individual details to the whole so that decorative elements do not take precedence, but rather the whole space is enhanced, mixing natural and man-made features in a way that works on the human subconscious to produce relaxation, and utilitarianism trumping ornamentation. These principles are exhibited in Old Cloverdale and its winding streets, which give the neighborhood its whimsical feeling, its planned green spaces, and its odd-shaped, spacious lots. All that said, Old Cloverdale was most likely designed by the English landscape architect Joseph Johnson, whose Atlanta suburb, Inman Park, shares similar characteristics. In 1908, the area was reincorporated again as Cloverdale Homes, and under the management of O.O. Nelson, the sales of lots and subsequent construction boomed, with just a scarce 10 homes in 1908 rising dramatically to 125 homes built by 1916. Indeed, with the building boom in full effect, Old Cloverdale organized itself as a self-governing village between 1910 and 1927, when it was annexed into the city of Montgomery. And Mike, you can switch back at this point, and if you could just take us through some of the photos there. This is an old streetcar, electric trolley, essentially, that came from Montgomery out into the Cloverdale area. So Old Cloverdale, which is recognized as Alabama's largest garden landscaped neighborhood, was originally an area populated by folks of the decorous upper class. However, the neighborhood has become more economically diverse throughout the 20th and into the 21st century. The neighborhood's early upper class makeup can be seen in the fact that many of the homes constructed during the building boom were designed in popular late 19th and early 20th century styles, such as the Italian Renaissance Mediterranean style, English Norman cottage, and craftsman style, as well as the colonial, Tudor, Spanish, Pueblo, and Georgian revivals. These were constructed by Montgomery's leading architects B.B. Smith, Weatherly Carter, and Frank Lockwood Sr. and Frank Lockwood Jr. As the neighborhood continued to develop through the mid to late 20th century, it became popular among the diversifying middle class of Montgomery, as can be seen in recent demographic data that indicates the median household income annually is around $62,000. Much of Old Cloverdale's cohesive design remains the same as depicted in the original plat map of 1892, and many of the residences maintain their architectural character as well, which we can see in the photos here from today. However, it should be noted that although the area east of the original town of Old Cloverdale, bounded by Boltier Street, Carter Hill Road, Narrow Lane Road, and Fairview Avenue, which has been known variously as East Cloverdale, College Park, and Cloverdale Ridge, is included within the historic district and maintains affinity with Old Cloverdale. It was actually developed by a wholly separate group of real estate agents and land speculators beginning in 1908. Today, Old Cloverdale is a thriving historic district in Montgomery. The neighborhood was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1985 and locally designated in 1996 after efforts to locally designate it happened going back to the 1980s when it was placed on the National Register. It is currently rated as the most walkable and bikeable neighborhood in Montgomery. The Cloverdale Entertainment District is situated along East Fairview Avenue and Cloverdale Road, and there's a community garden that was developed by the Old Cloverdale Association and interested neighbors who turned what was basically a vacant lot with a dilapidated property. They got the property demolished and turned the vacant lot into a community garden here that we can see on the screen here. Although not designated as part of the historic district, the Capri Theater is a popular single-screen venue showing independent and classic films as well as concerts and other events on its stage. And there are also several parks within Old Cloverdale, and here again are just some representative photographs. And lastly, I just wanted to Cite my sources, which include the Old Cloverdale Association website. There was a historic summary written by Tom Dolan and edited by Russ Baxley, and a book, Cloverdale, An Illustrated History, which was written by Suzanne Israel.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from, first of all, the audience? Just a minute, Shaun. Just a minute. Do we have any questions from the audience? Anyone in the audience would like to step to the podium and ask him a question before he takes his seat? Just step to the podium. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm Deborah Hall. I actually live on College Street, and I was just curious, this is a quadruplex beside me. Why is it in here? Is there some historic value?
Speaking to the microphone,
Oh,
please.
sorry. I'm just wondering about this quadruplex on College Street. It's right beside me, so I'm just curious, does it have any kind of historic? Yeah, you tell me.
With that, I actually, and this, let me see, Mike, this would be figure 8. So I think it would be going up.
No, I'm not sure I saw it in this slide thing.
Huh.
I don't think it's...
All right, that's interesting. Okay, well, sorry about that. Yeah, I think it doesn't seem to be within the slides.
Why did you choose that?
Yeah, I basically picked this. It was on the Old Cloverdale website, and I thought it was interesting. So yeah, I just picked one of the photos there to talk about one of the buildings.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Figure 17 and 18 both have the same address. Which one?
Yeah, it's the same house. This is just the other side. So this is the front, and then this is
Okay, that's a corner house.
Glen faces.
Let's make sure we're speaking to the microphone. Anyone else? Comments, observation, which is a comment, or question, whatever. How many of you live in Old Cloverdale? 2, okay.
All of them. All 4 of them.
Okay, all right. Well, let's do this while Shaun is at the microphone. Would one of you come to the microphone, let us know where you live, and tell us something about your experience as a resident of Cloverdale? How long you been there, the street name, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm Scott Pierce. Live at 695 Cloverdale Road. We've lived there 7 years, and love the neighborhood. Love everything about it. It is walkable and bikeable, and love our neighbors. We get a lot of people have porches, which you can see people coming by, and you have a lot of interaction with folks. Love the parks. Love everything about it.
Let me ask you this, as I said, while Shaun is standing there, if you were talking to your cousin in New York City or Chicago, what is it that you would say to that person that would really make that person want to hear a little bit more about Old Cloverdale?
Well, I'm also very interested in the history of Old Cloverdale, so the whole everything about the town of Old Cloverdale, I'm interested in all the bits and pieces about that. The fact that it was, a separate entity for a while, and I like the fact that it's close to downtown. And I tell somebody that one of the wonderful things about living there, I work downtown, I live in a neighborhood that's right next to it. It takes me 5 to 10 minutes to get to work. I think anybody in Chicago or New York would drool over that.
You're right.
But I appreciate this
Do you have a
presentation.
question for him, the authority on Old Cloverdale where you live?
No, I'm good. I know
Good
a lot
enough.
about my house.
Good enough.
It was
Thank
built
you,
in
sir.
1914.
Yes, thank you so much. Anyone else? Okay, Shaun, do you have any parting words on Old Cloverdale?
Just I appreciate y'all coming out and sharing how you feel about the neighborhood. So thank you.
And before you sit, is there a question from any of the commissioners to Shaun?
That was a good presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, question? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. As we proceed this afternoon, we want to focus on House Bill 128. And Shaun, you're going to lead the discussion on that? You can come back here to the microphone if you like. I think we can hear you better.
It's not working.
Oh, it's not working?
Not that one. Nope.
You can come to the center if you like. I feel that one is working.
Okay, this one works. Have you all had an opportunity to read the bill or the talking points?
Yes.
All right. So the talking points came from Landmarks Foundation. I guess I'll just ask what are y'all's initial thoughts, and yeah, how do you feel about the potential bill?
Let me ask, where is it in the committee? Has it come up yet, or is it on the calendar?
Hi, Warren Adams, Land Use Control Administrator. The information that I have, it passed out of committee with a favourable report, and it is poised for the third reading in the House. So that's where we are at the moment. There was no update on that last week, but we are watching weekly to see when this comes back up. And just for your information, I was asked to prepare a letter for the Mayor's office requesting the vote against this proposed bill. So that has been submitted. So the city has expressed its opinion on this proposal. And my understanding is a number of other large cities in the state are also against this proposal.
Yeah, when I was working with the state, this was one of my things I did, is review bills. And there are a lot of people that do pay attention to statements that you, oppositions or that you write. And the more they can get input in, it can help them in making their decision. This is a bad bill, in my estimation. As you have pointed out in the comments, anybody can say they're a church, a house of worship, and all of a sudden the property that's in the historic district, they can do whatever they want to with it. They can tear it down, they can make it into something that looks like it's from the 24th century. They could do anything that they want to, because most courts will not get involved in trying to decide what's a church and what's not a church. And so you just decide you want to get around all the requirements by just setting yourself up as a church. That's just not good. And then you got churches that should be held to the same standards in the historic districts as other properties. I don't understand the desire not to do that. So I just think that this is a bad deal.
And that exact comment, we did address that in the letter, that it's overly broad in its definition of a place of worship and could allow property owners to declare their property a place of worship to try, so that was specifically addressed.
I wish that we had enough here, because I would want to try to propose something that we join in a statement to the committee members of our opposition to the bill. We don't have enough to vote on that tonight, but I wish we could, because this could make our job and the job of those who are interested in preserving the districts as they are more difficult. And it's unnecessarily so, in my estimation.
Yeah, so we can certainly, we've been tracking it and, trying to see if we have any updates on the next steps within the legislature. And, I'd be certainly willing to place it back on the agenda again next month if it's still, pending and everything. And I guess I should try and summarize a little bit for the members of the audience here, that this bill would essentially roll back protections for churches that are within historic districts. So not only moving forward, but this would effectively remove any church that is in the entire state from the local district. And they've outlined a process to go through another step to opt into a district, but that would create an undue burden, essentially. And then you have to do all sorts of legwork, and you have to go through a separate process. So, that's basically what the bill is about: is removing any church from a historic district, preventing future designations from including churches unless you go through that extra process, that extra step.
While we're on that point, what is the motivation for this? What is the bottom line motivation?
Yeah, that we've been trying to puzzle out and figure that out as well. Maybe Warren can speak to that.
My understanding, and I don't know how accurate it is, was it was a request from one church, and they obviously took that to the representatives, and now they're running with it. But that's my understanding. I don't know if it was a coalition of churches or one particular church, but my understanding is it was one particular church that took this forward. But I was told that, so I suppose it's hearsay.
Thank you. Any other question from our other commission? Okay, thank you very much. As we proceed here, and we want to stay in touch with this, we want to keep our fingers on the pulse here to let the powers that be, the motivators behind House Bill 128, that we are concerned. We're not just sitting here going through the motion. We are concerned, okay? Let's look at discussion and formal comments from the board on Section 1, forward and introduction of draft revised ARB design guidelines. Comments? Shaun, you want to lead us on this?
Well,
Go ahead.
this version doesn't have what they changed or underlined or anything. It's just a clean version. Is there something that has a red line version or something that we could tell what they changed?
This is actually a brand new document that has not been reviewed by either the HPC or the ARB. As you know, it's really the ARB that will be using this document to review applications for historic properties, but it's the HPC that actually recommends approval of it. So this is the first version that you have. This document had actually been written over the past couple of years, but it was never presented for adoption. So our plan at the moment is to bring it to you one chapter at a time, so you have a chance to look through it in piecemeal, and we will make any changes that are requested by you or the ARB, and then ultimately once those changes have been made and any recommendations that we feel should be included in there, we will bring the final document back to you for review and recommendation of approval. But there is no red line version at the moment because you really are seeing the first draft of the document.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I'm gonna have to take a look at it.
Yes, indeed. Let me just ask this one question. Who out there in this giant world in which we live favors House Bill 128? What groups, what individuals favor this?
Can I answer that?
Yes, go ahead, please.
So remember a couple of years ago, it was one particular church that wanted to demolish a building, and they kept sending it back, and we kept saying no. That we kept giving them directions on what they can do to preserve the building, opposed to demolishing the building.
Yeah, you may not say it, but I say it, First Presbyterian, that's what you're talking about?
Right.
Okay.
So I think it's one particular church that might be pushing
Well,
it.
it certainly would affect that process, whether they came up with it or not. But, yeah, if that bill was in place, they wouldn't have to go through anybody. They could have
Yeah,
done.
they could
the
just
territory
demolish the building.
And demolish the
and do
building
what
if
they
wanted
wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
They purchased the old part of a historical church that they wanted to tear down and make it into something else.
Yeah, and that basically that is our understanding, is that it was a particular church that was displeased with the architectural review process, and so that's sort of the what we've heard. There's it's hard to determine with it being a bill in the legislature. So that's where Landmarks has helped to get the word out and try and get the big cities in Alabama to come out and oppose this. And we hope that opposition, including our letter from the city, will help to cancel it to get it to where it's not passed.
I think one important thing that's come out of this is really Landmarks have taken the lead in gearing up opposition to this. And one of the big differences in Florida, where I came from, is there's actually the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation, and that is a statewide preservation non-profit organization that rallies everyone together should these issues come up. And it's sort of notable that there isn't an organization like that in Alabama, a statewide non-profit historic preservation organization that can really advocate for historic preservation. So that's definitely something that I think would help in the future should an organization like that be started.
Okay. As we said, we'll stay vigilant. We're not going to give up, because we are the eyes and ears of the Historic Preservation Commission in the city of Montgomery. And as I've said on many occasions, we take our responsibility seriously. So when it comes to preserving something in this city, we want people to know you're going to hear from us, plain and simple. Thank you. Okay, anything else regarding this period? Any closing comments? Yes.
I think we had talked about the design guidelines. So if you all look over, what we sent in your free time, if you just send to me any comments that you may have, that would be great, and I'll incorporate those comments and edits into the draft.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shaun, can you send us the Word document or something so we can kind of like, it'd be easier for you to find where we write in red, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, that I can.
Or would you just rather us red pen it?
Yeah, I can try and think of how to.
And we could just send you how you like cross stuff out in red and add your, so you'll know what.
Yeah, the document's actually been prepared on Publisher.
Okay.
But we can
That can still
either send that, or there may be a way to convert the sections to Word to send them.
Yeah, because it's laid out pretty nice, so.
Yeah, I mean, or
We just take a copy and red pen it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, if you just comment on here, on the
Okay,
page, that would be
that's
fine too. And either, if you scan, send to me via email, or, I mean, you can mail it,
Okay.
and that would be fine.
Okay,
I
thank
had one, just one comment, concern, whatever, on the demolition permits, which has always been kind of a thorn in everybody's side. I think one of the biggest demolitioners is the city of Montgomery. And that, some sort of a statement to address that one way or the other, in the recent past.
So,
Historic properties.
Okay,
It's
so-
actually the city of Montgomery.
so demolition's done by the city?
Yeah,
Okay.
some sort of a process, within or without.
Okay, thank both of you very much. Staff updates, any staff updates?
Oh, well, before you get to that, my co-commissioner here found something in the bill. You want to say what you found? I'll say it if you don't. In the bill 128, she was noticing there on page 5, where it talks about the 2 exemptions. It says in the first part that the churches and synagogues are exempted. Then it says any building or grounds owned as a place of worship.
Yes,
And then it says, or any satellite location.
yes.
And he said, indicated within or adjoining to the place of worship. Any satellite location. You're talking about daycare centers, recreation facilities, and all that may be
Homeschools.
owned by the church. They would be exempt too.
Well, anything that considers themselves a place of worship, it doesn't even have to have an IRS, 501c3.
No, it doesn't have
or
none of that.
any type of, infrastructure, whatever.
say you
You
are.
could just say, like my backyard's a place of worship sometimes when the sun sets. I mean, so that is sort of, like you said, the semantics of it are so wide open for interpretation.
Thank you.
Now for the good news. There is good news. I don't know how many of you saw the newspaper today, but recently a team of us from economic development and a bunch of other departments in the city put together a grant application for the Neighbourhood Access and Equity Grant Programme. It's been announced that we were awarded the full $36.6 million for improvements along the Selma to Montgomery Trail. So that news just broke last night. So the application it included a lot of things: zero emissions infrastructure, rehabilitating the Transportation Administrative Building and a brownfield site along the trail into new locations for microgrids, charging stations for private and public transport. The Fairview Transfer Station will be rehabilitated to house smart benches, Wi-Fi nodes, wayfinding kiosks, a workforce microtransit hub, and a lot of other improvements. So we were awarded the full $36.6 million for improvements to the trail. So that is some outstanding news that we received today. Do you have any questions on that grant, or? No?
I'm confused by it, but no question right now.
There's a lot.
Who's the provider? What's the federal agency? What agency is this coming from?
Yeah. So some really good news. The other good news is that we received notification that there will be several nominations to the National Register coming up. There is a nomination for the Moore Building. There is an individual nomination for the First Baptist Church. There is a National Historic District nomination for Centennial Hill. And there was also a multiple property documentation form submitted. Basically what the multiple property documentation form does, it provides a context throughout the city for other important civil rights sites. And if that is approved, it basically means that it makes it easier to make nominations for these individual sites and districts that are included in the multiple property documentation form. So these will be coming to you for review at your April meeting. A representative from the Historical Commission will be here if you have any questions. And you can make any comments on the nominations, you can support them, you can not support them. These will be on the April agenda. It will be a public meeting for the public to come to as well if they want to comment on these nominations. What we were thinking of doing, because the documents are quite large, rather than waiting till the agenda goes out for the April meeting, we just send these documents to you tomorrow so that you have more time to actually review them and read through them and prepare any comments. So this is substantial. This is a substantial number of properties that, one, are nominated, and secondly, would be deemed as potentially eligible for nomination. And I think everyone agrees that it's been a long time coming, and it's really important that we do move ahead with this. So we will get these nomination documents to you tomorrow so that you have as much time as possible to review them.
Who prepared those?
They were prepared by the Historical Commission.
They themselves,
They used a for preservation, I think, was included in some of the nominations, but I don't have a list of everyone that was involved. I myself haven't read all of the documents
Are
yet.
you saying that is being presented to us for local, or it's going to the National Register?
These are national.
Okay, so they're going above us, and at some point you want to, us to look at it for designation too?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If you want to provide any comments on the nominations, you
That's what
can.
this process.
But you did bring up an important point. Yes, National Register opens these properties up for grants, but it doesn't provide any protection. And one of the things we're very keen to do is encourage people to also be added to the local register so that any alterations in the buildings are actually reviewed.
Well, they are, our survey, the local survey is now required to be in the AHC format, so it's technically formatted for us at this point, right?
Yeah.
So at what point should we consider it? I guess that's going to be a signature collection. It would be the next step or the last step to that, right?
Signature collection for
a local designation. I mean, what else is there left to do? Once you've got the National Register and all of that is done, technically, it's almost more than we would have asked for.
Yeah, I mean, local designation is a bit harder because it puts the review of alterations of properties have to be reviewed by staff of the board. Obviously, you can't demolish them. And we tend to find that there can be certain property owners that are not in favour of it.
Right.
They deem it to be, it's more hurdles to jump through. It's going to be more expensive to repair my property. But we are one of the things that we are doing at the moment is identifying the properties that we believe we can get the support for their local designation and at least starting off with them. In fact, the multiple property nomination does help us out because it does mention certain National Register
Thematics,
districts that they believe we should consider for the local register. So that gives us that gives it added weight.
Okay. But so then technically all that would exist would be to get the signature process for local designation.
Yeah.
Or to identify maybe even parts of the neighborhood, not maybe necessarily the entire parcel.
Exactly. We would like to target some of the most significant properties and reach out to them to see
or
if...
most threatened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, there really isn't a signature process. Like we don't have to, get people to sign for their consent on local designation, but it is good practice, best practice to give the owners, buy-in for that. And so, yeah, that's, so we're excited about these National Register nominations, and you all have the opportunity to comment, and any comments that you may have will go into the AHC's consideration, and, if they need to edit things or, change anything, it's basically your opportunity to influence the document for the National Register nomination.
And just to make clear that it's one of the things we have noticed about our existing code, it doesn't specifically state who can nominate a property for historic designation. And it's the first place I've worked where the code is like that. A code will normally say properties can be nominated for local designation by the mayor, the city council, the preservation officer, the Historic Preservation Commission. And that's what gave us a little bit of a... We had to look into it when South Hull Residents Association come forward with their request. Because yes, we had a meeting, yes, there were 25 people there, but we had to figure out, do you guys have the authority to speak for the entire neighbourhood, even though everyone had been informed? And the opinion was that yes, they could push ahead with it, but it's something we would like to see in there, make it absolutely obvious who can actually, Landmarks Foundation might be another body that we could include on there saying that you guys would be eligible to nominate something. But again, a change to the code requires to go to City Council and through the steps, so it ultimately has to get the final approval up there. But yeah, we felt that was one omission from the code that didn't actually say that who can nominate a property for local designation.
Did you identify a neighborhood, an active neighborhood association in Centennial Hill?
Did we?
Yeah, do you know if the commission, their surveyors, do they actually work with an internal identified neighborhood association?
I believe they worked with some of the people from Centennial Hill, but again, I haven't even read the whole report yet because, I mean,
it's just been, we've tried to identify an association.
Yeah.
On several occasions, and just, we're always looking for that.
Yeah.
We're always looking for.
And it's always better to do these things with the support of the property owner
right.
rather than get into a fight about it. So it's informing people what the advantages are and how really it's not a huge additional process and we're here to work with you, and it can have a lot of advantages as well. It stabilises the neighbourhood for a start. And one of the things I tend to say to people who are against districts is, I've worked in a lot of different cities with a lot of different historic districts, and on not one occasion has anyone from a historic district come forward to try and have the designation removed. So that speaks volumes. Over 20 years working in this field, at no point has a designated district come forward and tried to get the designation removed. And these are generally fairly successful neighbourhoods, decent property values, intelligent people, and at no point has anyone ever come forward and says, this is a bad thing, we no longer want to be a district. So to me, that speaks volumes. Okay, do you want the other updates?
Warren, I think Carol had asked about the agency for the grant, if you could just talk about that, who's giving the money?
That was for the Selma to Montgomery.
Yeah.
Not Park Service.
It's the U.S. Department of Transportation.
Oh, DOT, okay.
Yeah.
U.S. DOT.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Okay, and I think Shaun's got a couple of other updates.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope everybody has heard something that has clarified something in the back of your mind. Do you have any other comments regarding your staff report?
Oh, I was going to ask, Shaun, did we get signs? Did we get some sign applications
It's not working.
that were marked one?
Is this mic is on? Okay, cool.
Good. Yeah,
We have
good.
2 applications. I'm working on the sign application report.
Okay.
So hopefully I will have that either next month or May, one of those, for the sign committee. So yeah, I'm working on that. We, just as an update for the South Hull designation process, Warren and I went out and did 2 survey days. We covered about 160 properties. It was very helpful because there was an existing survey in 2009 that was done, and there are site forms from '09. So essentially, we are going back, taking current photos and checking the forms for accuracy, and I'll likely be adding a lot more detail to those forms as well. So we're in the process. The South Hole District Association has a meeting next week, and I'm waiting on confirmation to have Warren and I out to that meeting to discuss with the residents the next survey day, and likely invite folks out to do the survey with us as a public process. So we're really excited for this, to have a new historic district being created in Montgomery. So that's just a quick update on the process for South Hole.
Thank you very much. Before we leave this evening, Carrie, do you want to say something about this?
What we had handed out, and I'll give some of you guys from Cloverdale, the Preservation Leadership 5 seminar for May. We've got the agenda here, and the focus is going to be Montgomery's urban renewal and its effect, as well as the interstate destruction and what it did, you know, to the city of Montgomery, and the effects on how suburban development and the educational system, was affected. Our speakers will be, we've got introduction to the urban renewal, exactly what it was in the national movement. Then we've got interstates and highway system, which is Dr. Robinson from ASU. Housing in the neighborhoods affected, which will be Vincent Hall, who's a community activist over on Rosa Parks, E.D. Nixon area, that neighborhood. And but this is the good one. Canopy and a dying downtown, which will be talking about what actually happened on the downtown streets and the businesses that left or came in or tried to come in the city infrastructure. And then the last one, we obviously have 5 Wednesdays. Every May we have 5 Wednesdays. The rise of historic preservation, because this, happens in the 1960s and 70s in Montgomery, and, all of this is somewhat of an aftermath or happening after the passing of the Historic Preservation Act of 1966, which is supposed to be preserving, and then we come along with the interstates and the urban renewal movement, which is sort of this antithesis that's going on. So, you guys take this back, and, also you might check with your neighborhood associations. Most of them do sponsor it and have scholarship spots. Other people can come, but there are, if you come through the neighborhood associations too, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Just like to thank our guests for coming out, our land use staff, Mike Mann, and our other commissioners. There being no further business.
Dr. Bailey, just one more thing, if I could just add in staff update on, I think we had mentioned previously, we're planning to screen the Todd Road incident documentary film and have a panel discussion here with folks from Leadership Montgomery. So we're planning for that in May, I believe it is.
Yes.
So we have a little bit of time to prepare for that. But yeah, we met with the President Cheryl, I think Cheryl Johnson, I think is her name.
Yes, it is.
From Leadership Montgomery. And so another exciting event that we're planning, and looking forward to screen the documentary, and then also have folks to discuss the impact of that event, as well as Leadership Montgomery and the outcomes that came from that.
Shaun, specifically, what are we asked to do?
That's we actually. I think we want to check with you as far as your interest to be the moderator. I think that's would be an appropriate role for you, and then we'll have folks in the panel. We're sort of trying to work through the details on where we'll set everything up and where people will be and all of that. And there's a poster that's being developed to advertise the event and get the word out. So we do expect to have 50 or 60 people in the here to watch the documentary. So I think that was the sort of the goal, between 50 and 60 people. to come out and yeah, see the documentary and participate in the discussion.
Very good. Very good. Anything else? There be no further business. This meeting is hereby adjourned.